the harmonization of patent law has had a big impact on the way patents were classified and indexed. So, to bring it all together, so the file sharing systems have had big change, the development of INID codes, which we also discussed in the earlier lecture, the international patent classification system and the continuing development on that. Today we have what we call the country code IPC concordance, that is a simple illustration of that would be the for instance, if the US patent is classified as per USPC, which is the US patent classification, there would be a corresponding IPC code for it. So, the equivalent codes are represented by the country code and IPC concordance. So, that is one way of representation. And of course, the development of the cooperative patent classification system again is making in bringing in some level of harmonization in terms of representing certain classification codes. There are minimum guidelines in relation to subject matters for patentability. So, therefore, if you really look at it from the point of view of claiming in certain particular subject matter and the way it is represented in patents documents, that has also brought in some level of search requirements. So, today search is not only about patent searchers as professionals. In fact, even within the patent office there are guidelines developing. So, there are interfaces being developed for automating search even within the patent office to provide for examiner an easier platform. So, today we have a lot of examiner assisted search tools where the examiner may be looking at a certain subject matter which is allowed or not allowed under the law. So, that would bring in easy retrieval of information which are put in specific categories. So, today we have these examiner assisted search tools which help in actually pulling out requirements in relation to a particular subject matter. So, that is where the relevance of it is in this particular context. Now, another significant development has been the building of what we call the TKDL database, which is a very important contribution of India to the classification system. So, very briefly touching upon the aspects of TKDL is based on the oppositions filed for by India to certain patents being taken in the US and EP for the inventions based out of traditional knowledge, which are inherently recognized as traditional knowledge in India. There was a need for development of the traditional knowledge database, so that this important part of traditional knowledge itself as a prior art is what became an important consideration. So, the traditional knowledge database represents 4 different systems of traditional medicine which are catalogued, and this database was shared with the USPTO in 2012 and 2004, and then again after they post the case in the EP on the Neem case, which was in 2007. Today, more than 40 different patent offices actually adopt the traditional knowledge data digital library. Now, what is the importance of this traditional knowledge digital library as part of the entire documentation? So, what it simply means is that when an examiner at a given patent office is looking for the prior art in relation to a particular patent, he will also necessarily screen it through the traditional knowledge digital library. So, if there is any invention which is based on the traditional knowledge in relation to a particular plant source or a biological source, immediately it will flash to the examiner that there is possibly a prior art which is interfacing with that particular invention. So, that brings the examiner to looking at that the examination of the patent application in relation to a prior art that is existing in the traditional knowledge digital library. So, this is a very significant development. Not only this, India has also contributed based on this the traditional knowledge resource classification, wherein about 200 different subclasses of IPC were included into the IPC, which are based on the traditional knowledge information itself. Today, there are also specific patent databases like the Chinese medicine database, which is the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine database. So, where you can look for the patents specifically in relation to Chinese medicine. So, again if you really look at it from the point of view of patent documents, one other important thing which is important is the PCT minimum documentation. So, again aligning the requirements of documentation in relation to the PCT regulations is also one important thing. So, wherever the patent officers are accepting PCT documentation, PCT based applications, it is important to adhere to the minimum documentation in compliance with rule 34 of the PCT regulation. So, we come to an important aspect of discussion now on databases. So, there are different patent databases, and the understanding what are the databases, what are the components of the databases is the first important thing before we really embark on a patent search. So, broadly speaking, there are two different types of databases. One is what we call the free of charge patent databases, where the public access is possible. For instance, the USPTO website, the JPO website, or the any of the patent office websites where the public data is available is the free of charge patent databases. Then today there are also a lot of databases which are organized by companies which actually sell them so that people can actually undertake a search and analysis in a very defined way. So, there are fee based databases also, which are predominantly subscribed databases. So, before we really embark on understanding different databases, there is one important thing every searcher must keep in mind, every patent searcher must keep in mind, is that no search service or database is comprehensive in all the aspects of patent information. For instance, even public databases may not be complete. For instance, it is possible that in this week the patent office has published certain documents which are yet not catalogued in the database. So, one must look at search from the point of view of understanding the background of the updation of the data in each database. So, therefore, no search service is actually totally comprehensive from the point of view of covering all patent information. So, this is something we need to keep in mind. Now, the second different aspect that we need to know is that each database is inherently different, and the type of search service that is available will also be different. So, therefore, understanding features of a database is important before we embark on a search. So, if you look at patent search, this is a very simplistic mind map created to understand where we search for different patent databases and how the different patent databases are available from different patent offices, whether they are public sector publicly available databases, services provided by national patent offices or regional patent offices, or even by WIPO, which is the patent scope, as you can see in the logo that is provided there. And there are a lot of free of charge also private sector, where today the area of patent search has picked up and gained so much of importance that search engines are also providing us various ways in which patents can be searched. So, there are also some of these deliberately created different type of patent databases. For instance, we have Google Patents, Patent Lens are representative of some of these free of charge, but they are developed by private entities. Then of course, we have this fee based private sector entities developing databases which are on service based ones. For instance, you have Orbit, which is from Questel, which is a French concern. Then you have PatBase, which can be used, and then there is STN. There is also Thomson Innovation from Thomson Reuters. There is Total Patent, and there is WIPS Global. Now, some of these subscribed databases are inherently very good for doing analysis. So, they provide us very good analytical options in terms of creating the patent landscapes, in terms of providing the portfolio information, telling us the gaps in between patents. So, they provide us easy user interfaces and also help in generating reports much more easily, so mostly for professional work, people also sometimes use these databases which are subscribed databases. So, you have the entire gamut of databases developed, which are again, here again you have different catering to different type of users. Let us understand a little bit about free of charge patent databases and a little bit about that. So, whenever we look at any particular free of charge patent database, the most important thing that we need to take into consideration is what is called the coverage. So, what are the different patent collections that are available? That is one important question to ask. That means this patent database represents which countries and regions. What are the type of document types that are available at a particular in a particular database? Does it give us patent applications only? Does it give us also the granted patents? What else is the information that is available in this particular database? How do we how is the data captured in terms of bibliographic data, descriptions and claims? What kind of time period of data patents are available? Because patents, we talked about some of the very early patents were available only in microfilms. So, today can we access those as part of even the online set of patents that are available? Again, an important consideration in relation to patents is language. So, language is an important consideration because in many of the countries they are actually printed in their language. So, do we have translations available for the particular patents? For instance, today you have manual translation, you also have machine translation of claims, and the other area of patent practice has also been of curating machine translated claims into making them as near to the actual claim terms. And this is very important because languages can present different inherent issues when you are translating claims. So, it is also important to look at what languages does the database support. Now, there are several patent database collections. If you look at the World Intellectual Property Organization, which offers a search service called the PatentScope, which is again provides information on the publications which are done worldwide in relation to PCT filing and also the arrangements under the PCT filing. So, one can access that from PatentScope. Now, eSpaceNet is the database which is for accessing applications predominantly in relation to European patents. It also supports a lot of patents in its collection which are about from other countries. About more than 80 different countries are covered under the eSpaceNet. Again, this is a very unique database for searching patents, where you can also get concept based search in relation to patents. Now, JPO also has this intellectual property digital library, which has patents which specifically only related to Japan. USPTO has a patent database which supports application data, grant data, and specifically in relation to United States. Though they also have this collection which also has the PCT collection, which are entry of PCT applications into the United States, and also the expanded USPC class collection as well, which we will talk about in the later set of lectures. So, the granted patents that are available at the USPTO database start from the patents, the first patent granted in 1790, which we saw in the earlier set of slides. They also have the application database the documentation, which essentially is all the entire set of US published applications from the year 2001. So, suppose one way to really search for titles only. So, you can get titles from as back as 1976. Now, if you are really looking at classification codes, you can go back to from the time of 1790. that full text information in relation to patents was actually available at the USPTO from the time of 1976. So, you can imagine earlier to this there was very little formal documentation of the entire patents itself at the USPTO. So, if you look at the USPTO interface, and this is one representation of the USPTO access to full text databases. So, you can have a look at this PAT FT, which is the availability of full text from 1976, and then it provides for quick search options, advanced search, and the full page images as well. And then of course, there is the information that you can get on the history of the the entire file status of the documentation itself. There is also the other database, which is the App FT, which is the application database, and this is available from 2001. So, these are the two different places where one could actually embark on doing the search. So, understanding this is important. These are the various fields by which one can search for patents at the USPTO. So, for instance, you are looking at the different categories of title, abstract, date, patent number, classification. So, where you can actually look at the IPC, you can also go to the current US classification, you can understand who are the inventors and whether it is a federally funded, this patent, this invention is actually federally funded, in which case government interest is there, provided that information is provided. Then is there any foreign priority with respect to a particular application, and then all the different references and the related US application data is also provided. So, this is a simple interface where you can see these are the different fields by which you can search for patents, by which you can search for patents, and then you can actually combine them with using with one term and another term. And what you see here is an important category, select yours. So, I mentioned to you earlier about the different databases that are available. So, the full text database is available from 1976 to present. So, you can choose an option through and then look at the specific type of a database that you are looking at. And this is how the search results are thrown once you actually undertake any particular search. So, for instance, if I was searching by the Atanezavir, which is again a AIDS based drug, I am getting 1 out of 5 hits, and then these are the titles of the patents and the patent numbers, and you one click on this will take you to the entire patent data that is available on that particular patent. So, this is one such patent where you can see the details of the title of the patent, the abstract, the details of the abstract, who are the inventors, the assignee, what is the application number, and when was this patent filed. So, today we can access all of this information on the electronic mode. Another patent office information is the Intellectual Property Digital Library at the JPO, and this basically has applications beginning from the year 1885, and the examined JP applications available from 1922, then published applications at the Japanese patent offices have been available since 1975. So, you have data from then, and of course, you have the granted patent data also again. So, understanding the thresholds of actually from when the data is been available is important, because many a time when you are searching you may not get for information. That time it is important for you to understand that does the database support actually that set of information from that year. So, therefore, it is important to look at this sort of the coverage of the particular application itself. Now, this is another simple interface if you look at it from the point of view of the IPDL. So, this is a simple search which helps you to search by different categories. Now, in the case of Japan, you can search by patents or also by utility models. So, that is another category you can search by, and of course, there are other intellectual properties you can search for by designs as well as trademarks also at the Japanese Patent Office website. eSpaceNet is another major patent office, and it has different types of coverage with respect to different type of data. For example, if you look at all EP applications are available from 1978. For instance, if you are looking at the more uniform way of representation, almost all categories of the patent documents have been made available from 1978 itself. Now, this is one representation of the SpaceNet web interface, which is the website is given as in this illustration. So, the eSpaceNet provides for what we have the smart search, which is the advanced search and the classification search. The smart search is interesting because it also provides phrase search or the concept based search. So, you can actually give in a particular phrase. For instance, I may say optical apparatus for a digital pen. So, it will throw up all the patents in relation to optical apparatus for digital pen. So, that is where we have access to the documents, and as mentioned earlier, the database also supports more than 80 different patent office information. So, that is and then it is also the other thing which is also important to note is that all these patent offices have updation of data either on a Tuesday or on a Friday. So, you must remember that the most recent information in relation to patents could be on that particular day. So, knowing that is also equally important. Many of the patent databases also support the not only the simple search, but also the advanced search, because that is where you are really looking at adding further categories and homing down on specifics of each type of a patent. So, here you can actually look at the different categories that are provided here and search by any of these or more categories in relation to searching for patents. That is where you can see the. So, same search of the particular molecule of atazanavir on the eSpaceNet has thrown up so many different applications. You are getting a different way of representation. If you see here, where in the case of the US patent database, you could see the patent number and the title as the very first interface that you could see. In this case, you are not only seeing the title of the invention, you are seeing a simultaneous information on the inventor information, the publication information, you are getting the IPC, you are getting who is the applicant. So, these interfaces obviously are different. Each database has its own way of supporting and also presenting information. And when you click on the particular patent application, you can get a layered representation of information. For instance, you click on the bibliographic data, you are getting all the entire basic data on the application, including the INPADOC family data. You click on the description, then the claims and all the other documents. So, you can get a very layered view of each of these documents. And this is again when you are back to this particular search, you can again surf through the other links that are available to access the other different patents. One of the other major source of database with respect to patent applications is the patent scope, and patent scope information supports all PCT applications from 1978, and this is a very robust search service to look at patent applications available on the worldwide basis, which is through the PCT mode. And this is the interface, that is the patent scope interface, where you are searching for international as well as national patent collections, and that is the important thing of this. Patent scope is supported by the WIPO. It is a database available at the WIPO website. It provides you different ways in which you can search for PCT publications and the information in relation to the different patent offices. So, almost you can search for more than 75 million documents, and every now and then the database is enriched with additional documentation that is available. Now, if you look at the structured search in relation to the patent scope, and this is how you see the different categories thrown up. You can search by publication number, application number. You can look at the English abstract of that particular, for instance, if it is a Korean document file, you can get the English abstract. So, you can understand the national phase of that particular application. So, that is also important for us to, and you can get a whole lot of information in relation to searching for what we call the worldwide application. So, they are marked with what we call WO numbers, and that is how you identify a PCT document. This is what is I mentioned, the WO, what you see here indicates that it is a PCT published document. And here again you see the representation of data is very different. You can see the link for the invention in here, which is underlined. You can find the publication date, you can know the international classification and the subclass. You can understand the PCT application, it is coming from a US priority, and who is the applicant. Another application you find. So these are the various applications available in relation to that particular compound. And if you look at the individual patent, you can get a whole lot of information, which is the bibliographic information. Most importantly, you can get the priority data. It tells you the priority is as early as 2007, June 22nd. And of course, another important information is the designated countries. So you have all these different are the codes of each individual country, AU Australia, you have all these so the Germany. So you have these different, so that means that this particular application has been designated or which is relevant for all these particular countries. So this is again an important, by now you have possibly understood that each database is providing different type of information, which is again unique to its own database. So we come to the important consideration of looking at having looked at information related to patent data and also the structure of different type of databases. It is worthwhile to note that patent search itself is an important job for many people, and these are the various job titles one comes across when it comes to patent search. So today people are hired either with the technical background or with techno-legal background to be working either as patent engineers, or they are called IP engineers, patent analysts, they are also called knowledge scientists, patent associates. So these are the various terminologies. So it also talks about this provides us an important insight into that patent search itself is a big profession. So that is what one needs to really appreciate when it comes to the importance of patent search. So the summary of the lecture is on two aspects we have discussed: the purpose of patent search, on how we need to look at directing future R&D investments, strategic planning, how to enhance existing capability by searching, and before bringing in products into the market, realizing the value of patent search history in terms of from where it was in the earlier times to where we are now, from the manual process to today, looking even at artificial intelligence assisted processes for really organizing huge patent data into an online fore, and also providing for data through greater speeds. So this is the value of the understanding the patent search itself from the historical perspective. Again, the value of harmonization of the patent system, one from the point of view of the patent office's practices sharing, and another from the point of view of patent treaties, which have had a lot of relevance in relation to the development of the patent office practices from the point of view of sharing information, indexing information and documentation, and also harmonizing the entire the practice in relation to classification as well as in relation to documentation. So that is again another perspective that we have learned today, and we've also learned a lot about the different patent databases in terms of what are the interfaces and how each of them is unique from the other. So these are the various references that are available for access, and there is one book which is available, which is Patent Search for Tools and Techniques by David Hunt, which provides some insight into aspects of patent search.